know, the council will give advice to, I lost my breath. I got to get back in shape. Minister LeBlanc, myself, Madame Charette as the negotiator, other ministers. I'm very pleased to have that group. It's a diverse group, leaders from the union movement, experts in industry, and CEOs in finance and across the economy.
Canadian killed in Mexico. Any comment on the Canadian killed in Mexico?
Well, it's. Let's see. Sorry, where were you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Our hearts go out to the family and friends of the individual who was tragically killed. It's a terrible circumstance. I very much appreciate President Sheinbaum's personal attention to the matter, and we're working with Mexican authorities on the situation. But it's a sad day. Thank you.
Vous pensez quoi des propos d'Howard Lutnick qui dit que la stratégie canadienne est nulle parce qu'on s'est tourné vers la Chine pour les autos électriques?
Moi, j'ai parlé longtemps avec M. Lutnick la semaine prochaine. Il n'a pas soulevé ces propos-là. Bonjour, Laurence.
Bonjour.
Vous allez bien?
M. Poirier vous accuse de parler beaucoup, de faire des beaux comités là, pour la relation Canada.
Vous parlez de l'excellent comité qu'on a dévoilé aujourd'hui?
Mais il dit où sont les actions et où sont les résultats? Parce que quand on regarde par rapport à où est-ce qu'on en était l'an dernier, on ne sent pas qu'il y a eu du progrès. Qu'est-ce que vous répondez à ça?
On répond qu'on demeure dans la meilleure situation que n'importe quel autre pays au monde quant aux relations commerciales avec les États-Unis, mais c'est pas assez. C'est pas qu'est-ce que c'était il y a 2 ans. C'est pourquoi nous faisons le travail qui s'impose. On a des conversations. On a des bonnes nouvelles. On a déjà commencé. On a commencé. Madame Charette était à Washington. J'ai parlé à l'ambassadeur Wiseman encore hier. Il était à Ottawa cette semaine. On a des 2 mains dedans. Moi, normalement, c'est pas très poli de mettre les 2 mains dans une affaire. Là, on est assis à une table, on prend des notes, on parle souvent au téléphone, des fois par des vidéos, beaucoup de textos, bonnes nouvelles. On communique par texto, ça va bien.
How come we're lagging behind Mexico? Rachel Mock, the son you sue from the council.
So, careful, geez, so you get pushed over. It's a workplace accident here. The new council, we're very excited about the new advisory council. The Prime Minister has brought together senior business leaders in the country, senior elected union leaders, representatives of business associations, former premiers, former leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. It's very much focused on businesses that obviously have important relations with American customers, American business partners. I'm looking forward to the first meeting next week. I have spoken to a number of these people over the last number of days. This will be a forum for the Government of Canada to hear directly from business leaders, elected union leaders, and community leaders. I think it'll help our negotiations and it'll help the Government of Canada be informed in terms of these different perspectives. Peut-être en français, je peux dire, moi je suis très heureux de la composition du nouveau conseil aviseur. J'ai parlé moi-même à plusieurs de ces personnes-là. Nous avons des PDG de grandes entreprises, la PDG du CN, AgroPure, la Banque de Montréal, Magali Picard, la chef élue de la Fédération des travailleurs du Québec. J'ai parlé avec Mme Picard la semaine passée, des anciens premiers ministres, l'ancien chef du Parti conservateur. Alors, c'est vraiment un mélange de personnes qui représentent des industries, mais aussi des travailleurs et des communautés. On a notre première rencontre lundi, la semaine prochaine. J'ai bien hâte. On travaille ensemble. Mme Charette va participer, l'ambassadeur Wiseman. Mais on n'a pas de représentant du Bloc québécois non plus. On n'a pas de représentant d'autres formations. C'est pas une affaire partisan. On n'a pas fait le calcul partisan. Moi, je pense si la présidente élue de Unifor, Mme Payne, ou Magali Picard, élue par la Fédération des travailleurs du Québec. Moi, je pense que la NPD devra célébrer ça, comme nous le célébrons aussi.
Champagne.
Well, it's good, second fastest growing economy in the G7. I just came from Washington, and you saw the comments. The strongest fiscal position of the G7, in a world which is very uncertain, very volatile, I would say even complex. Spending trade in Washington, you realize the complexity, the fog of uncertainty has not lifted. quite the opposite. So for us, we need to be prudent. And we know that what's top of mind of Canadians is affordability. So that's why we've been supporting Canadians. And you saw yesterday the suspension of the excise tax on fuel coming in force. That's the kind of boost that Canadians need and a bridge to, you know, the stronger economy we're building.
Pourquoi est-ce que les Américains pensent que c'est plus facile de gérer les Mexicains que les Canadiens?
Ben, écoutez, moi, j'ai une très bonne relation. Regardez hier le commentaire qui a été émis par le secrétaire au Trésor. On a eu une bonne rencontre, presque 1 heure. On a parlé de plein de choses, dont la relation bilatérale canado-américaine, le désir de faire avancer nos négociations. Alors, moi, je vous dirais, quand vous regardez... No, but I would refer you to you probably saw the readout which has been posted by the Secretary of the Treasury, which was very factual, but also very hopeful in terms of what we're doing together with our American partners.
I said the Mexicans have a date and we don't.
Well, listen, I can only comment on what we're doing in Canada. I had a meeting with the Treasury Secretary for more than an hour. You saw his comments and said, you know, the customer review, that's his words. I think you can see the statement. But we want things to progress. Obviously, it's an important relationship for both the United States of America and Canada.
Is the PM's rhetoric undermining this? The ambassador seems to be suggesting.
No, I think what the Prime Minister said is the diversification imperative. I think Canada understands that. Other G7 partners understand that. Canada is no different than the other G7 partner. Everyone understands that in a world which is more fragmented, you need to build new partnership. Canada is standing out, to be honest. We're the only G7 country with a free trade agreement with all the other G7 nations. We have preferential market access to 1.5 billion consumers. That's not lost. I mean, when you sit in Washington in these meetings, everyone looks at Canada. You know, we have strong fundamentals. We have the most educated workforce, strong industries, build planes, cars, ships. We have critical minerals. We have abundance of energy. And we have these trade agreements. So it's comforting to see that the International Monetary Fund see what we see in Canada, you know, and that the world is very much wanting what Canada has to offer. So that's why, on one end, we have to be prudent because there's a lot of complexity and volatility. But at the same time, the fundamentals are strong, and the international institutions recognize that the work we're doing is paying dividends.
Would you be prepared to put public money into a BC pipeline if that's what it takes? Because the talks seem to be stalled and there's no private.
Listen, I'm not going to speculate on future projects if they are, but what I can say is that we've been there to support projects of national interest, and our major project office is something that a number of international investors are looking at.
En français.
Quand M. Carney dit que les relations avec les États-Unis s'est rendu une faiblesse, est-ce qu'on tente de baisser les attentes dans la région?
Moi, je pense que ce qu'il dit, c'est l'impératif de la diversification. Je veux dire, nous, on le comprend, nos partenaires du G7 le comprennent aussi. Dans un monde qui est incertain, volatile, on a besoin de bâtir des partenariats avec des pays, dont les pays du G7, les pays d'Asie. Vous savez, par exemple, au niveau de l'énergie, les pays d'Asie, les pays d'Europe sont friands de ce que le Canada peut offrir. On est capable de produire de l'énergie de façon responsable, de façon durable, et on a la confiance, je dirais, des investisseurs à travers le monde.
The IMF also says we should raise fiscal anchors. Is that something that you're considering?
Well, I would say what the IMF said, and I was there last week, the focus was really the strongest fiscal position in the G7. I think that's the takeaway, not only that we have as Canadians, but I would say colleagues around the table realize that we are in the strongest fiscal position. And it's coming from the international institutions that are looking at all the countries around the world. And when you have that in Washington, the takeaway around all the tables, in the dining rooms, in the coffee table, was Canada standing out in the world.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de M. Poilievre, M. Champagne?
Well, the review will happen. I'm confident. I mean, just refer to the comment that the Secretary of the Treasury issued just following our meeting and the work that Minister LeBlanc is doing.
But Trump has said publicly he does not really interested.
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de ça?
J'ai pas compris.
M. Poilievre s'est arrêté ici ce matin. Qu'est-ce que vous dites de ça?
Je sais pas. Est-ce qu'il était perdu?
Monsieur Champagne, l'impact des tarifs sur les finances publiques en ce moment, quels sont vos indicateurs?
Je vous entends pas.
L'impact des tarifs américains sur l'économie canadienne et sur les indicateurs en prévision de la mise à jour de l'économie. Qu'est-ce que vous êtes capable de dire aux Canadiens en ce moment sur l'impact sur les finances publiques?
Bon, je vous dirais prudence parce que c'est pas seulement les tarifs. Je pense que les gens à la maison le voient. C'est l'incertitude qui est créée par un ensemble de facteurs, évidemment, la guerre en Iran, la durée, l'impact sur les différents sites de... Ben, écoutez, je pourrais pas, je pense pas qu'on peut juste focaliser sur un aspect. Je pense que c'est plutôt de voir que l'ensemble, si vous regardez ce qu'on appelle, il y a un index de l'incertitude mondial qui est publié par des agences internationales. On est au plus haut maintenant. Donc, c'est clair que c'est un ensemble de facteurs et c'est l'interaction entre ces facteurs-là. Je veux dire, c'est les tarifs, c'est la guerre, c'est la durée de la guerre, c'est l'impact sur les différentes raffineries au Moyen-Orient. Et le constat qu'on fait à Washington la semaine dernière, c'est essayer d'analyser l'impact secondaire que tout ça a. On parle des fertilisants, on parle par exemple de l'hélium pour les semi-conducteurs. Donc, ça a beaucoup d'impact. Je pense pas qu'on peut sortir un élément. Je pense qu'il faut juste voir que on est dans une période très volatile et complexe.
Je vous entends. Monsieur Poilievre vous accuse de ne pas utiliser tous les leviers à votre disposition dans les négociations avec les Américains. Est-ce que vous trouvez que M. Poilievre est un bon joueur dans le Team Canada?
Moi, je pense qu'on a tous l'avantage à travailler et avoir un message commun dans un dossier comme celui-là. Et comme je vous dirais, si vous regardez les commentaires du secrétaire au Trésor la semaine dernière que j'ai rencontré, je pense que d'un côté comme de l'autre de la frontière, nos voisins américains sont conscients aussi que d'avoir un voisin comme le Canada qui est très stable, très prévisible, qui peut jouer un rôle d'importance en matière énergétique, je pense que c'est le genre de message qui résonne à Washington.
Je voudrais commencer avec une mise à jour sur la situation en Mexique. J'ai parlé avec mon homologue mexicain ce matin pour chercher plus de détails et il m'a dit que le gouvernement mexicain va initier une enquête et ça va être aussitôt que possible et nous allons être en contact dans les prochains jours pour avoir plus de détails. Et aussi mes officiaux consulaires sont sur le terrain pour aider la famille et les victimes. I spoke with my Mexican counterpart this morning and he committed to undertaking an investigation into the death of a Canadian citizen on Mexican soil. We will remain in contact over the coming days, and I want to assure Canadians that our consular officials are on the ground assisting the remaining victims, and in particular the Canadians who are in Mexico. Of course, I express my own condolences to the family of the victim, and I will leave no stone unturned in ensuring that Canadians are supported abroad and that this investigation uncovers facts relating to the death, the murder of a Canadian citizen on Mexican soil.
Does this change Canada's travel advice on Mexico at all?
Pardon me?
Oh, does this shooting change Canada's travel advice on Mexico at all?
At this time, we are examining all issues relating to the bilateral relationship, but of course, we are in very close contact with our Mexican counterparts, and we know that it is a very difficult time for the families, and that's really what we're focused on.
Did you summon Israel's ambassador over the killing of a Canadian in Lebanon?
My officials did meet with the Israeli ambassador. I last week committed to being in touch on the matter. In fact, the killing of a Canadian citizen on any foreign soil, including in Lebanon, is of extreme concern to me and to the Government of Canada. And so, yes, we did speak with the Israeli ambassador, and we requested that Israel undertake a full and transparent investigation into the killing of a Canadian citizen on Lebanese soil.
Do you have a commitment that would happen?
We are very much hoping that they will respond positively to our request for a full and transparent investigation. This is the conversation that we are having right now. Of course, we were very adamant that this investigation is extremely important. And as I said at the beginning, it is of the utmost concern for me as Foreign Minister and for the Government of Canada whenever there is a killing of a Canadian on foreign soil, whether it is in Lebanon, whether it is in Mexico, for an investigation to occur. And as I said, the Mexican government has committed to undertaking an investigation, and we've made that request of the Israeli government as well. Thank you so much. I have to go open the House.
Some people on it, including Rachel Notley, Mr. Youssef. Why did he shuffle some of those members out?
I think that's a question for the Prime Minister. Obviously, he's made it top priority to focus on how we can grow Canada's economy, including how we're going to manage the relationship with our historically largest trading partner, the United States. This is a Prime Minister who is plugged into the most influential and impactful voices when it comes to economic thought leadership across Canada and around the world. I think he's more than qualified and certainly able to make the decision as to who he thinks is going to best serve on that council. I've got huge respect for the individuals that you just mentioned. I want to say thank you for their many contributions to Canada, but the Prime Minister is certainly within his authorities to get advice from the people he thinks are best positioned to provide it.
J'aimerais juste vous entendre. Je sais ce que vous avez en tête, c'est pour le fédéral, mais quel est l'échéancier que vous vous donnez pour faire ça? Après le jugement de la Cour suprême?
Maintenant, juste alors, sur les clauses dérogatoires, il y a un projet de loi qui est dans le Sénat maintenant. C'est la raison j'ai besoin de considérer les possibilités pour les gouvernements fédéraux de considérer des changements de la loi. La conversation va arriver à la Chambre des communes, je pense ça, après le Sénat a l'habilité pour considérer ce projet de loi. C'est la raison j'ai considéré le rôle pour la législation qui impacte le gouvernement fédéral dans comme situation.
Ça se ferait par le canal du S-218. It would go through this bill.
Oh, je pense que c'est la raison que j'ai considéré cet enjeu. Il y a un défi dans la Cour suprême du Canada. C'est une chose différente. Mais quand les Sénats considèrent un projet de loi comme ça, il est essentiel pour le gouvernement fédéral de considérer chaque projet de loi avec la possibilité pour arriver dans la Chambre des communes.
Donc vous aimez ce projet de loi?
C'est possible, mais j'ai besoin de considérer toutes les choses pour toutes les possibilités pour le gouvernement fédéral de I'm trying to say to regulate.
It's not clear to me. You can switch.
Okay.
Are you saying that you will endorse S-218? Is that what you're saying?
Right now, S-218 creates the conversation that I think is an important conversation for us to have. In my view, it creates a possibility for us to consider how the federal government may wish to restrict future federal government's use of the notwithstanding clause. The precise final form of a piece of legislation has not been determined by the government, but this is a conversation where I intend to engage with Senator Herder. I think as some of the issues that could be dealt with the bill are also being dealt with in the Supreme Court, I would have a preference to have the Supreme Court determine what limits exist as a matter of the Constitution before the federal government considers whether and to what extent S218 could or should be amended.
Can you talk about Bill C9? Sorry, it's in the Senate right now. There's been some chatter about adding residential school nihilism to that bill, the same way that the Holocaust was treated. What's your view on that? Is this something that this government would support if the Senate passed that amendment?
So I'm interested to see what the Senate will do. Initially, I had anticipated that this conversation was going to come before the chamber through a private member's bill. Leah Gazan has had one substantially identical to the reforms that you've just suggested. We didn't, as a result of anticipating dealing with some of those issues through the private member's bill, which I understand is no longer going to come forward, we didn't necessarily do the deep policy work we've done on other aspects of Bill C9. So to the extent the Senate has advice or recommendations, I'd be interested in what they may entail, but I don't want to prejudge the outcome until I have the opportunity to see a final version of the Senate's disposition of the bill.
Minister, what's your take on the recent BC court ruling on mining rights in Drupa? Do you think that might have an effect on how the law is applied federally?
Sorry, which case are you referring to?
I don't remember the name of the one, the mining rights.
Okay, I think maybe if you want to send a follow-up to the team, I just want to make sure that we're operating on the same facts.
What do you make of some of the criticism on Bill C-16 and about the deepfake laws not being strong enough?
Look, I think we're in a new territory, and the urgency with which we need to act is readily apparent to anybody paying attention. We've seen a judgment in my own province that specifically drew attention to the fact that the exact behavior that we are trying to criminalize is taking place, and offenders are able to continue to deal with this abhorrent practice with impunity. This is a very important first step to criminalize AI deepfakes without the consent of the person whose likeness is borne out in the images. To the extent that committees have an opportunity to strengthen the proposals that we've included in Bill C-16, we are interested in offering strong protection. Some of them may come through C-16, whether it's through amendments or the change that we've contemplated in the bill already, but to the extent that there are future reforms that would further strengthen the ability for people, disproportionately women, to know that they're not going to be abused with this kind of horrendous behavior, I think it's incumbent upon every parliamentarian to consider how we continue to move forward with this kind of progress.
Why not now, though? Why not from the inception to have stronger laws against deepfakes? For example, there's been complaints about the fact that it only applies to nudity when there is, as you could see from the example on Grok, how people were using it to create other non-consensual intimate images that were not necessarily nudity.
Well, we've started with the goal of aligning the use of AI deepfakes with other intimate images that currently have attracted criminal scrutiny, and we wanted to have consistency across the laws as this new tech emerges. There's a separate conversation that we need to have that may involve regulation of this kind of behavior when it exists outside a criminal conduct, including the ability of a person to register a complaint, potentially have offensive material removed. That is a related but separate issue to some of the criminal penalties that we put forward. So happy to continue to take advice from those who know these issues best with a view to try to make Canada a safer place, including for people who have been subjected to this this heinous kind of behavior. Okay, thanks so much, everybody.
Southern BC pipeline?
Listen, you know, it's not a good thing to speculate. You look at projects when they come, but it's not a good thing to speculate. But I'll see you later. We'll be at QP today.
It's actually this evening their time, so we're very much monitoring the talks that are supposed to continue. Islamabad 2, as they're referred to, are extremely important, not only for the Iran war, but also because of potential knock-on effects in terms of the war in Lebanon. And this is a very concerning and fragile ceasefire, both on the Iran and Lebanon front. And we're very much hoping that there is a de-escalation, that the ceasefire will remain in place and become permanent, and that indeed civilian lives and civilian infrastructure will be protected at all times. This is the work I'm doing internationally with fellow foreign ministers across the globe, but certainly the work needs to continue on the ceasefire. I will say that I've spent a considerable amount of time over the past 2 days engaging with my colleagues in the Gulf region, and I do plan to travel there in the coming weeks. Thank you.
And on the Strait,